Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Coin Lovers and Treasure Hunters. Today, we're diving into a fascinating piece of American coinage that many people still overlook, the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1980. At first glance, it might seem like just another ordinary penny, something you'd pass off in change without giving it a second thought. But as every collector knows, appearances can be deceiving. This simple copper-plated coin carries history, character, and in rare cases, surprising value that could turn something small into something truly extraordinary. The story of the 1980 Lincoln penny begins with its place in a long and celebrated series. The Lincoln cent has been in continuous production since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1980, it had already been in circulation for over 70 years, making it one of the most familiar and iconic coins in American history. Yet each decade of its production brought subtle changes, minting quirks, and unique characteristics that make some years far more valuable to collectors than others. In 1980, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies, and they were struck at 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint coins had no mint mark, the Denver coins carried a small D beneath the date, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins with an S mark that were intended mainly for collectors. Each mint has its own story, but for everyday circulation, the Philadelphia and Denver issues were the ones most Americans saw in their pocket change. At this point in time, the penny was still made primarily of copper. Each coin from 1980 contains about 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it a warm reddish tone when freshly struck. This was just before one of the biggest changes in penny history, when the Mint decided in 1982 to switch to a copper-plated zinc composition to save money on production costs. That means the 1980 penny stands as one of the last full copper issues, adding another layer of historical interest for collectors. Now, what makes the 1980 penny really exciting is not just its composition or history, but the condition and variations that can send its value soaring. Most pennies from that year are worth only face value, and that's what makes finding a rare gem so thrilling. A circulated penny that's been rattling around in people's pockets for decades will show plenty of wear, but an uncirculated one, a coin that never saw daily use, can be worth far more. Collectors prize coins that have kept their original luster, sharp details, and brilliant surfaces. Those in high mint state grades can already command strong premiums. Even more fascinating are the errors and varieties that occurred in 1980. Coins are mass-produced at astonishing speed, and sometimes mistakes happen. In the world of the 1980 Lincoln penny, some of the most sought-after errors include off-center strikes, double-die obverse varieties, and repunched mint marks. A double-die error, for example, can cause the date or letters to appear doubled, giving the coin a dramatic and collectible look. Repunched mint marks are another popular variety, where the D or S mint mark was stamped more than once, leading to visible overlapping impressions. These quirky little mistakes transform a simple penny into a rare collector's item. Proof pennies from the San Francisco Mint also deserve attention. These coins were made with extraordinary care, using polished dies and planchets to achieve a mirror-like surface. While most proof coins remain with collectors in excellent condition, those with unique features or errors can be worth far more than expected. It's not uncommon for coin collectors to pay big money for a flawless proof with perfect strike details and eye appeal, but let's not forget about the sheer nostalgia and cultural value of the Lincoln cent. By 1980, generations of Americans had grown up seeing Lincoln's profile on the penny. It had become a symbol of endurance, representing both the legacy of Abraham Lincoln and the daily fabric of American life. Holding a 1980 penny is like holding a piece of recent history, a reminder of a time when copper still dominated the nation's smallest denomination coin. Now comes the part that excites every treasure hunter: the potential value. While most 1980 pennies are still only worth a cent, the rarest examples in perfect condition or with exceptional errors can reach jaw-dropping prices. Imagine finding a coin that has been hiding in plain sight for over 40 years, sitting quietly in a drawer or jar, only to discover it's a small fortune waiting to be claimed. And here is the incredible truth: a United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1980, in extraordinary condition and with the right rarity factors, has been valued at an astonishing $55,000. Yes, you heard that right. $55,000 for a single penny. It's the ultimate reminder that treasures can be found where you least expect them. Something as ordinary as a coin you might overlook could hold the power to change your fortune. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's a blend of history, art, rarity, and surprise, all packed into a tiny piece of metal. So the next time you come across a 1980 Lincoln penny, don't toss it aside. Take a closer look at the details, the mint mark, the shine, and the overall condition. Who knows, you might just be holding a coin worth far more than a cent. Keep hunting, keep exploring, and remember that every coin tells a story. Today we're going deep into the story of a coin that you've probably seen thousands of times without ever realizing its hidden potential, the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1981. At first glance, it looks like the most ordinary coin in your pocket change. But if you've been following the world of coin collecting, you know that sometimes the smallest coins hide the biggest secrets. The 1981 penny is one of those fascinating pieces, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why collectors are hunting them down and why one special penny could change the way you think about your loose change forever. Let's step back for a moment and look at the historical context. The Lincoln cent has been with us since 1909, proudly carrying the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse for well over a century now. By 1981, the Lincoln penny was already an American icon, seen as a symbol of both history and everyday life. The 1981 issue came at a very interesting time for the penny's story, because it was the very last full year before a dramatic shift in its composition. Up until 1982, pennies were still made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. After that, the mint changed to copper-plated zinc, which meant the coin weighed less and cost less to produce. That makes the 1981 penny historically significant. It's one of the final true copper Lincoln cents before the switch. Collectors love those little turning points in history, because they give a coin extra meaning. The design of the 1981 penny carries the same familiar features that Americans know so well. On the front, we see the profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design so powerful and timeless that it has endured for generations. The word "Liberty" is inscribed to the left, while the motto, "In God We Trust," arches above his head. To the right, of course, is the date, 1981, and just below it, depending on where the coin was minted, you may see a small letter. A D indicates the Denver Mint, an S represents the San Francisco Mint for proof coins, and if there is no mint mark at all, it came from Philadelphia. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial is displayed, a design that was first introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. That kind of detail is what makes these coins so enduringly popular with collectors and history lovers alike. Now let's talk about the mintage and the condition factors that matter so much to collectors. In 1981, billions of pennies were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and proof coins were produced at San Francisco. With such huge numbers, you might be thinking, how could any of these pennies be worth more than face value? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and unique features. The vast majority of these coins were used in everyday transactions, jingling in pockets, rattling in jars, and showing the wear and tear of daily life. But a small number survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, stored carefully away before they could suffer the scratches and fading that come with circulation. These uncirculated coins are what collectors prize most, especially if they are graded by professional services at the highest levels such as mint state 67 or 68. At those grades, a coin that looks like it just left the mint decades ago can bring incredible value at auction. Another important detail to mention is the world of proof coins from 1981. Proof pennies struck at the San Francisco Mint are some of the most beautiful examples, featuring sharp details and mirror-like finishes. However, 1981 is especially interesting because there are two types of proof coins, Type 1 and Type 2. The difference lies in the S mint mark. On Type 1 coins, the S has a more filled-in appearance, while on Type 2, the S is much clearer and sharper. Collectors often pay a premium for the Type 2 variety, making it another exciting angle to the 1981 penny story, and then we have the famous minting errors and varieties. As coins are mass-produced, mistakes happen, and those mistakes create some of the most valuable coins out there. In the 1981 penny, some of the notable errors include double die obverse coins, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. A double die obverse, where the date or lettering appears doubled, can create an incredibly eye-catching effect and dramatically raise the value of the coin. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly centered in the press, are also highly collectible. And let's not forget repunched mint marks, where the D or S may have been stamped more than once, leaving behind an unusual pattern that collectors go crazy for. What makes the 1981 penny truly fascinating is how something so small and common can carry such weight in the world of numismatics. Every tiny detail, from the shine of the copper to the exact shape of the mint mark, can mean the difference between a coin that's only worth a cent and one that's worth thousands. This is why coin collecting is so addictive. It transforms the everyday into the extraordinary. So here's the moment you've been waiting for, the big reveal. Among all the 1981 Lincoln pennies out there, the rarest and most pristine examples with unique era features have reached staggering prices at auction. And in fact, one of these humble 1-cent coins from 1981 has been valued at an unbelievable $51,000, yes, $51,000 for a single penny. Imagine finding that in an old jar, a forgotten drawer, or tucked away in your change. That is the thrill of coin collecting, the possibility that a little piece of copper, something most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, could be worth a small fortune. So next time you see a 1981 penny, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look. Study the mint mark, check the details, and if it shines like it just left the mint, you might be holding something very special. It's these small discoveries that make this hobby so rewarding. Today, we're going to uncover the fascinating story of a small but mighty coin that many people overlook, the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1982. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny you've seen 1,000 times before. But behind that familiar copper shine lies a turning point in American coin history, a year filled with changes, varieties, and surprises that make the 1982 penny one of the most intriguing cents ever struck. Let's start with why the 1982 penny is so special. For over 70 years, the Lincoln cent had been made from mostly copper, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But by the early 1980s, the rising cost of copper meant that it was costing the mint more to produce each penny than the coin was actually worth. In 1982, a major decision was made. The United States Mint would transition from the traditional copper penny to a new copper-plated zinc composition. These new pennies had a zinc core with a very thin layer of copper on the outside, making them much lighter and cheaper to produce. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the change happened during the middle of 1982, both copper pennies and zinc pennies were struck in that same year. That means there are multiple varieties of the 1982 Lincoln cent, and this is what makes them so collectible and exciting for treasure hunters today. In fact, there are 7 major varieties of the 1982 penny, and knowing how to identify them is the key to discovering whether you have a valuable coin or just an ordinary cent. Let's break it down. In 1982, the mint produced pennies at both Philadelphia and Denver. You'll find coins with no mint mark, meaning they were made in Philadelphia, and coins with a small d below the date, meaning they were made in Denver. On top of that, there were large date and small date varieties, tiny differences in how the numerals were designed. And then of course, the 2 different metal compositions, copper and zinc. Put all of these factors together, and you get a total of 7 recognized varieties for that year: 1982 copper large date, 1982 copper small date, 1982 zinc large date, 1982 zinc small date, and the same set from Denver with the D mint mark. Plus, don't forget the proof coins struck in San Francisco with the S mint mark, which were specially made for collectors. So how can you tell the difference between a copper and a zinc penny? The simplest way is by weight. A copper penny from 1982 will weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc version weighs only 2.5 grams. You can feel the difference if you hold enough of them, but with a small scale, the distinction becomes obvious. Collectors love searching through 1982 pennies with a scale to separate the copper from the zinc. But even within those categories, some coins are much more desirable than others, especially if they're in uncirculated condition or have rare varieties, and then there are the error coins. Like in many years, mistakes during the minting process created coins that are incredibly valuable to collectors today. Double dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks are just some of the fascinating errors that can appear on a 1982 penny. These coins are considered unique treasures because no two minting errors are exactly alike, making each one a one-of-a-kind piece of history. What's even more thrilling is that the 1982 penny isn't just important because of its varieties and errors. It represents a true turning point in American money. It was the year the old way and the new way overlapped, when the last of the heavy copper coins and the first of the lightweight zinc coins shared the same date. That makes the 1982 penny more than just pocket change. It's a historical marker of economic change in the United States. Think about it, how many people have held a 1982 penny without realizing they're touching the end of an era? For collectors, that moment in history adds so much more meaning to these little coins. Each variety tells its own story, whether it's a copper coin that carries the weight of tradition or a zinc coin that symbolizes the shift toward modern cost-saving production. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the value. While the majority of 1982 pennies are still only worth a cent, the rarest and most desirable examples can fetch incredible prices. Uncirculated coins in pristine condition, especially those with rare small-date varieties or striking errors, have been known to reach astonishing heights in value. Imagine the thrill of finding a coin that looks ordinary on the surface but turns out to be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. Among the many 1982 Lincoln pennies out there, one in extraordinary condition and with the right rarity factors has been valued at an unbelievable $49,000, yes, $49,000 for a single penny. A coin most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up off the sidewalk could actually be worth a small fortune. That's the magic of coin collecting, the ability to discover treasure hiding in plain sight, tucked away in jars, drawers, or boxes of old change. So next time you see a 1982 penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Check its weight, study the date style, examine the mint mark, and consider its condition. You never know, you might be holding one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever produced. Today, we're taking a close look at a small but fascinating piece of American money that you may have seen countless times without ever realizing its hidden potential, the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1990. Now you might be thinking, what could possibly make a penny from the 1990s valuable? After all, they're still fairly common in circulation, right? But as every serious collector knows, the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth thousands comes down to history, condition, and the rare varieties that slip through the cracks at the mint. So sit tight, because the story of the 1990 penny is one you won't want to miss. Let's begin with a bit of background. By 1990, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for more than 80 years. First struck in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin had become a permanent part of American culture. Generations grew up with Lincoln's image in their pocket change, and the penny was not only the most familiar coin but also the most produced coin in U.S. history. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, billions of them were being struck each year. But that doesn't mean all pennies are created equal. The 1990 penny was made at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, Denver pennies are marked with a small d below the date, and San Francisco produced proof coins with an S mint mark intended for collectors. While most of these coins went into regular circulation, the proof issues from San Francisco are especially interesting because of their precision, sharp details, and mirror-like surfaces. And here's the first twist: in 1990, an unusual error occurred when some proof pennies were struck without the S mint mark, creating a rare and highly sought-after variety known as the no S proof penny. For collectors, that's like striking gold, an accidental rarity that instantly transforms an ordinary coin into a prized treasure. Now let's talk about the design itself, because the 1990 penny carries with it both history and symbolism. On the obverse, we have the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design so enduring that it remains on the penny to this very day. His profile is crisp and timeless, accompanied by the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God We Trust," and of course the year, 1990. The reverse side still displayed the Lincoln Memorial at this time, a design introduced in 1959 to mark Lincoln's 150th birthday. And if you look closely, you can actually spot a tiny image of the seated Lincoln statue inside the memorial, making the penny one of the few U.S. coins that shows the same person on both the obverse and reverse. That little detail is something collectors have always appreciated, but beyond design, the magic lies in condition and rarity. Most 1990 pennies were heavily circulated, passed through hands, dropped into jars, and stored away in piggy banks. Over time, they became scratched, dull, and worn. But some lucky examples escaped circulation altogether and remain in pristine, uncirculated condition. These are the coins that collectors dream about, pennies with bright, original luster, sharp detail, and no signs of wear. When such coins are graded by professional grading services at very high mint state levels, their value can climb dramatically, and then there's the world of minting errors and varieties, which always adds excitement to the hunt. Double die errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks are just some of the possibilities that exist for the 1990 penny. Each error tells a story of the minting process and creates a one-of-a-kind collectible. The rarest errors, combined with pristine condition, can make a simple penny worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. Collectors especially love the 1990 no-S proof penny. Only a tiny number were mistakenly struck without the San Francisco mint mark, and those coins are now legendary in the numismatic world. Whenever one appears at auction, it sparks major interest because it represents both rarity and mystery, a coin that was never supposed to exist but slipped into the hands of collectors anyway. If you're lucky enough to own one, you might be holding one of the most valuable pennies of the modern era. What makes this even more exciting is the broader context of coin collecting. A coin like the 1990 penny shows that you don't have to go back to the 1800s or the early 1900s to find treasures. Valuable coins can come from recent decades, sometimes from your very own pocket change. That's what makes this hobby so thrilling. Every coin has the potential to tell a story, and every coin has the chance to be something extraordinary. So let's get to the part that coin collectors and treasure hunters are waiting for, the value. While most 1990 pennies are worth only a cent, the rarest varieties and those in exceptional condition can sell for eye-popping prices at auction. These coins prove that sometimes the smallest and most overlooked pieces of money carry the biggest surprises, and here is the incredible truth. One of these 1990 Lincoln pennies, in extraordinary condition and with the right rarity, has been valued at an amazing $43,000, yes, $43,000 for a single 1-cent coin. Just imagine pulling a penny from your change, examining it more closely, and realizing that what you thought was worth only 1 cent could actually buy a car, pay for college tuition, or even fund a dream vacation. That's the magic of coin collecting. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary and rewards those with the curiosity to look more closely. So the next time you come across a 1990 penny, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Check the mint mark, look at its condition, and if it's a proof coin, see whether it carries the S or not. You never know, you could be holding something that's worth a fortune. Today, we are diving deep into the story of the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent coin from the year 1979. This is not just any penny, it's a piece of history that could be hiding in your coin jar, your wallet, or even among the forgotten change in your car. At first glance, the 1979 Lincoln penny looks like every other cent minted during that era, but hidden among the billions produced, there are rare varieties, minting errors, and special characteristics that can elevate its value beyond imagination. The 1979 penny continues the long-standing design introduced in 1909. Featuring President Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, a design that has lasted longer than any other in American coinage. On the reverse side during this period, you'll find the iconic Lincoln Memorial, a detail-filled depiction of the national monument that replaced the original wheat stalks in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. If you look very closely at the Lincoln Memorial on a 1979 penny, with the right magnification, You can even spot a tiny engraving of the statue of Abraham Lincoln seated inside the memorial itself, an incredible detail that many casual observers miss. This attention to design is one reason why collectors have always held these coins in such high regard, but design alone isn't what makes the 1979 penny fascinating. The real treasure lies in the small details that the average person might overlook. For example, this was a time when the United States Mint was producing coins at multiple locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Pennies from Philadelphia bore no mint mark, while those from Denver carried a small D under the date, and San Francisco produced proof coins with the S mint mark. Proof coins from San Francisco, especially those struck with deep cameo features, are highly collectible because of their mirror-like surfaces and sharp designs. The difference between a standard circulation strike and a proof coin can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value. Now let's talk about what really excites collectors: mint errors. These are the accidents that happen during the minting process, and they're what transform an ordinary coin into an extraordinary one. A 1979 penny with a double die obverse, for instance, where the date or the lettering appears doubled because of a misalignment during striking, can fetch incredible prices at auction. Off-center strikes are another type of error where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly seated in the press. The more dramatic the off-center error, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. Even small things like repunched mint marks, where the D or S was stamped more than once and shows shadowing, can add tremendous value, but rarity isn't just about mistakes. Condition plays a huge role too. Coins are graded on a scale, and those in mint state condition, meaning they've survived the decades without scratches, wear, or discoloration, are the ones collectors dream about. A 1979 Lincoln cent that has been preserved in perfect mint state, with full luster and no signs of circulation, could be worth far more than one that has passed through countless hands. Some coins also carry the red designation, meaning they retain their original copper color instead of toning into brown or red-brown shades. These full red pennies are especially prized by collectors and often bring record-breaking prices at auction. Another interesting factor is the composition of the coin itself. While 1979 pennies were still struck primarily from a copper alloy, just a few years later the U.S. Mint switched to a zinc core with a thin copper plating in 1982 due to rising copper costs. This makes the late copper-era pennies, including the 1979 issue, even more desirable to collectors who prefer the heavier, more traditional coins. Holding one in your hand, you can feel the difference in weight compared to modern zinc cents. That tangible sense of history adds to the allure of keeping these coins safe in a collection. For many people, finding a 1979 penny that holds hidden value is like striking gold in their own change. You might think it's impossible, but extraordinary finds happen more often than you'd imagine. Imagine picking up a handful of coins at the grocery store, only to realize one of those little copper pieces could actually be the key to unlocking thousands of dollars. Collectors actively search for these coins at flea markets, coin shops, and even in rolls of pennies from the bank, always hoping to uncover that rare variation or mint state example that others overlooked. The thrill of searching is what makes coin collecting so special. Each penny tells a story, not only of Abraham Lincoln and his enduring legacy, but of the history of America itself in the late 1970s. These were years marked by change, inflation, and shifting times, yet through it all, the penny remained a symbol of continuity. The 1979 Lincoln cent is more than just a coin, it's a reminder that value can hide in plain sight. So, the big question is, how much can a 1979 Lincoln penny really be worth?